Well, as Scott alluded to, there's a lot of people working on this project. There's a really great team of people, not just Lunaha, contributing a lot, and also our design partner, Office Architecture, is not with us this evening. We have an engineering team, structural, mechanical, electrical, and as we're starting to take the concept and move forward, they're really starting to come online now, interpolating in some of the systems. And so there's a lot of moving parts and pieces right now, and it's really getting exciting. But one of the most important partners in this effort is the community of Milton-Freewater. It's really great to see the participation, both tonight.
Will you speak up, please?
Leading up to tonight. So it's been great to see the participation of the community. You know, you guys are the most important partner in this process. And what we want to do is, take your feedback and try to assimilate your thoughts, your dream, your vision into the designs and the finished product. And hopefully, when we're done, this community sees their fingerprints on the completed work. So today, hopefully, you'll even see some of those things coming through in some of the imagery that we're going to look at. You go ahead and go to the next slide, Jason. So this is the floor plan, the concept plan that Scott mentioned that came out of the schematic design process. And I think it's very similar throughout the last community meeting. That the concept is that we've been working with is continue to hold true and meet the vision that goes all the way back even before the pre-bond planning process and the work that was done leading up to the bond effort. Somewhere I have a laser pointer here. So just maybe a quick review, and then I'm going to shout out a couple of those finer details that are some of those fingerprints that have come out of some of the focus group workshops that we had back in October with some of the staff. So on the left side of the screen, this is the first floor of the building, and on the right side is the second floor. And this is kind of a pinwheel design with the center and the heart of the school being the commons and the administration area here on the left. And to the north side, the top side of the screen, I think we're losing a little bit of it behind the curtain there, but this is the gymnasium, physical education stage off of the gym. And then up in this corner is food service. There's actually an event entry on that side of the building, which when we get to looking at the site plan, you'll see there's a parking lot on that side of the building. And then we have these classroom pods, and there are a total of 4 pods. There's a K through 3 school, so there's 1 pod per grade. Kindergarten being this wing right here, and then there's a pod that stacks on top of that wing, and then another wing here, and then another pod that stacks on top of that one. So again, 4 pods and classrooms around a common space. So it is a big school, large elementary school, designed for around 650 students. One of the nice things about that pod design is that for each grade, it kind of creates a school within a school concept. So it's almost like having a smaller school within the context of a larger school. Any questions so far?
Are you doing bathrooms in each room? That's what the electric are, or are they common bathroom per pod?
Okay, so that's a good question. There's two different things going on. So for the kindergarten grade level, the bathrooms will be in the classroom. So this wing being the kindergarten, and these squares right here are those restrooms. And then for the first, second, and third grade, each pod has a set of restrooms. So for example, in this pod, there's a common restroom right here, which opens out into this hallway. It has some ability to be supervised from that collaborative space, but not directly off of that space. So there's some acoustic separation. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
What's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
capacity for your auditorium?
The capacity for the auditorium? Are you referring to when you say auditorium, the gymnasium? Depending on how the seating is configured, but around 650. Yes, ma'am.
Where's the arts and music area going to
So in this concept, the music room is the stage is doubled as a music room. So the way this will be designed is that stage will have a folding, acoustically improved wall that can close, and when it's closed, then that space functions as a music classroom, and then that can open up, and then it becomes the stage for the open to the gym.
art?
There is no dedicated art space in the facility. That would happen in the classrooms or in the collaborative space. Yes, sir.
That 650 capacity, is that bleacher capacity that you're talking about in the gym?
Well, that's one of the things that we're looking at, and part of that is budget driven. So it could potentially be accommodated entirely in a set of retractable bleachers. There's a cost that goes with that. Right now, what we're looking at is a combination of bleachers and chairs. So if you look at this illustration, this rectangle right here represents a bleacher that would hold about half that number of people, and then the balance would be portable chairs that would be brought out on the floor. Any other questions? I have a couple more slides, so there'll be some more opportunity. Maybe go ahead and go to the next one. I mentioned back in October we had a series of focus group workshops where we invited the staff to come in and chat about and provide input into the classroom design and some of the other areas of the building. And so I just wanted to kind of run through a list of things that we've modified in the design that were feedback that came from the staff from those workshops. So one is there was some concern about the amount of glass in the building, and specifically glass in places down low where it might be a kind of a maintenance problem with kids and fingerprint and smudges and things like that. And so the reason we have transparency in the school is to facilitate supervision from classrooms to the collaborative areas in between spaces. That's really kind of a safety and security feature. So one of the things that we're doing, we want to maintain that transparency, but we're limiting and being very strategic with how we size those windows. We're bringing the window sills up off the floor, so the windows are primarily in the view range. Another thing that we've done, and I have another image where we'll look at kind of a classroom design, but we've studied a number of different ways to lay out the casework, teaching station, and some of the features that you find in the classroom, and kind of went back and forth with some different options, and I think we've settled on what I believe will be the option that will be carried forward, and we'll look at that in just a minute. We also, I think based on the last workshops we had, there was some concern about the allocation of space for some of the specialized learning. And so a couple of things that came out of that was we combined some smaller specialized learning spaces to create some larger rooms. And then we also carved out an ESL and RTI classroom set on each floor of the building. So now there's one set of those spaces on each floor. And this is a small thing, but just the details do matter. There was some feedback about how we would access the TV storage room, for instance. And so we had a single door access to the TV storage room, and we've changed that to a double door just to make sure there's a wide enough access for getting equipment in and out of that. Another thing we've looked at doing is the stage that I mentioned, which is located right here off of that gym. That stage is elevated by a couple of feet, so there's some space under that, and we're going to use some of that for some additional storage. So it's just a matter of taking advantage of some of the features of the building for other uses. Another thing that we have to think very seriously about in the design of the building is how kids are going to flow from space to space when they go out to PE, when they go to the commons to have lunch, and all that traffic back and forth. And so in this building we have 3 stairways, and we try to strategically locate those so there's efficient movement of children and safe movement of children from space to space. So this red dot right here represents a stair. So if there's a students that are in the upstairs portion of that quad can go down that stair and they're right out onto the playground. And when recess is over, they can come right back in and go upstairs without going through the other teaching spaces and disrupting what may be going on in those other spaces. So there's separation of traffic. We chatted about flooring patterns and how we might configure flooring patterns, not just to make the building look nicer, but also to create some traffic patterns and some organization in the school in terms of flow of kids. We have a central stair right here that allows children, again, to come from upstairs and get down to the cafeteria without going through the space below. And so there's some things that we've been thinking about, the core team has been thinking about, and I know that a lot of you have been thinking about. So I think we've got a really nice layout here. We're really excited about it.
Is there an elevator?
Yes, there is an elevator. The elevator is located right here, so it's kind of in the central location. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are there any rooms that would handle lab type work or like science? Like bosses and that type of thing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Are there any rooms that would accommodate science projects?
This design does not have a dedicated science lab. It's not something that's fairly common in K-3 school to have a dedicated science lab. There are seats in the classrooms, so there's those facilities available for that to occur within those spaces. Yes, sir.
The big common areas in each pod, what's the design for that? What's the plan of usage for that?
So those are the common spaces. Those are places that allow for students to break out into smaller groups. And so, for instance, if there's activities going on in the classroom, a group of students could break out, be out in a common space because of the transparency that we have between the classrooms and the collaborative space. The teacher still has line of sight and supervision. But allows some of those activities to happen without disrupting what may be going on in the classroom at the same time. It's also, these spaces are also sized so that that entire grouping of kids could have an assembly in that space at one time. And maybe, at the beginning of a section, they can all come together and talk as a group about what's going to be going on for that activity or that upcoming educational program. And then we can break out to their separate classrooms from there. I don't know if, Amy, if you have anything more you wanted to add to that. It's a little bit of an educational question. I'm just a silly architect.
One of the guidelines that we have is that teachers have to be within sight and sound of a para-educator that might be providing student support. So we could have technically a teacher that is sitting at one end of that, let's just say down by the RTI, and could be within sight and sound of 3 or 4 parents that are working with kids. One of our challenges that we have right now is we have to either do that in the classroom or we're transitioning kids. We waste a lot of time having kids walk from one classroom to another, and if you're a grow outside in the rain through the, so you're getting coached, you're taking them up. For me, this just makes us be able to teach you that utilize time very efficiently. That help?
Any other questions? I have one more slide that shows the classroom layout before we go there. Yes, ma'am.
For library?
Oh, yes. Very good question. Maybe we can go back one slide, Jason. The media center is on the second floor. It's located right here. It stacks over the top of the administration area, so it's in a central location. But yes, the answer is there's a library that's right here.
Is that with computers?
There'll be space in there for computers, but there's not a dedicated computer lab. And the trend now is a lot of that activity happens in the classroom. I think the district is moving towards the one-to-one personal device So that could happen, those limited students can take their devices with them, they could be in the classroom, they could be in the collaborative media center. Other questions?
What kind of flooring are you,
We haven't, that's a very good question, but we haven't made that decision yet. One of the things that we're working on over the next couple of weeks is our interiors team is looking at some different options for what, how we might configure the flooring. And so that's something we're going to be focusing on in the next couple of weeks and making some decisions. So it could be hard surface, it could be soft surface, it could be a combination. Different spaces will demand some different kinds of flooring. The gym, we're looking at a athletic wood flooring system. That's the one thing I think that has been decided, but kitchen, of course, would be an appropriate flooring there. Commons is probably a hard surface. Classrooms in those areas we haven't decided yet. Yeah, so one of the things that will, as part of our study of flooring, is we'll be looking at not only just what the flooring looks like, but also what it costs, and then what the long-term costs are, life cycle costs are for those materials. And so, we have a budget we have to meet, so first cost matters, but we also want to think about, what the long-term implications are going to be for the district in caring for material. Yes, sir.
Any Mimeo boards or projection systems in the classrooms?
Yes, there will be some teaching technology in the classroom. A finalized decision on what that will look like. The baseline is an interactive projector and a voiceless system, which would have distributed speakers throughout the room, so that the teachers are wearing a microphone and takes over and off their voice and allows the students, to hear better because of the acoustic amplification.
Are we not moving? It's the presentation wall. Are we not moving our boards? For PCM boards, kind of are obsolete now. Their presentation walls are. All right.
Part of the challenge with the technology is so fast moving. We have some projects that we started and made decisions during design, and by the time construction starts, it's outdated. Or not outdated, I should say, but new versions have come out. And so that's something that it actually makes sense to let that decision ride a little bit, so that we're not picking something today that there's going to be a new version of in 12 months. So those are some more discussions we'll be having. Yes, sir.
Is this design modeled after an existing school, or did you start from scratch and just come up with a compilation of ideas?
The answer is yes. There are some features of this that are similar to some other projects we've done, and so one of the things, just with our experience in under K-12 design, we do bring some of those ideas forward. We have some ideas about things we've done in the past that worked well and things that haven't. Ultimately, this is a custom designed facility for Milton-Freewater, for your community, for your educational system. So it's really a combination of things. Maybe let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just an example. I wanted to show you some of the things that we're looking at. We think one of the cool things we're able to do today is we're able to more easily translate the ideas into three-dimensional models, which are more easy to kind of follow and understand. So we've got a number of different configurations for classrooms in terms of how the casework and the services are going to be configured. And this is fairly close to the what I think is going to be the final design moving forward. On the left is a typical kindergarten space, and on the right is what would be a typical grade 1, 2, 3 classroom. And so the left side, this wall here, that's representative of the exterior wall of the building. And then this wall right here is that wall that is common to the collaborative, the common space in each pod. And I mentioned the transparency that allows the supervision from the classroom out to the collaborative space. So let's see, we have some windows here. There's some windows here above these student cubbies. And this window frame system will probably go down to the floor, but the bottom panel will be an opaque material, not glass. It's one of the feedback some of the feedback we got on the glazing was not too clear last time before light. And then, we've looked at some different configurations for where the casework is going to be located. Tackable surface, rideable surface. This kind of color material right here is representative of a tackboard material. And then in the first grade classrooms, our casework and storage cabinets are going to be over here by the door, the sink. And one of the neat things about this design is it creates corners in the room, which are the teachers really, I think the feedback on that was very positive, and they will have those corners where you can take a group of kids in circle time or that kind of thing and teach from those corners. And then our windows, outside windows, are actually at the corners of the room, and one of it's a little bit of a non-traditional approach. You'll see a lot of schools where the window is kind of centered in that outside wall. But what this design does is it allows that wall to be more useful as a teaching wall. And so that's pretty excited about kind of thinking outside the box there. And I think we have a really nice classroom design, which is the result of the collaborative effort and input that's come back from the teachers and the staff.